Okay, I think we're all set and ready to go. Once again, good evening, everyone, and greetings from William and Mary. We hope this call finds you all well, healthy, and happy. We're really grateful to spend more time with you this evening. And we hope you'll enjoy our session tonight, our fall series on the value of mentorship on your MBA journey. I'm Amanda Barth, Director of MBA Admissions here at the William and Mary School of Business. I've served in this role for more than a decade, and I'm also a proud alumna of the William and Mary School of Education's Education Policy, Planning, and Leadership program. I earned my master's here in 2006. Also with us tonight is my Associate Director, Josh Lustig. Josh?
Good evening again, everyone. I know I see a lot of familiar faces from the last few sessions, so thank you again for joining and welcome to some of the newcomers on the call. We have a real special event tonight. Ms. Wood Dunn and Mr. Shannon are going to talk to you all about our Executive Partner Program, and they truly are some of the best, and that's what we say a lot here at William & Mary. So it's going to be a great show tonight. Again, my name is Josh Lustig. I'm the Associate Director of MBA Admissions. I've been in this role for 2 years. But I also went to William & Mary, graduated in 2005, and ultimately came back to work here because it's such a tight-knit community and special place. So I think that's real important to know. Quickly, and I know a lot of you have heard this before, but I think it's real important before we get into the MBA talk tonight and executive partners to realize it's a lot more than just that. You're going to gain the William & Mary brand on your resume. So when I say that, there's a lot of history, a lot of prestige, and a lot of tradition that goes with that. We were established in 1693, making us the second oldest university in America. We are one of 8 original public Ivy universities and 3 US presidents call William & Mary their alma mater. So very proud of this school and excited for the conversation we're going to have tonight. So thank you, Amanda.
Very good. And as Josh mentioned, tonight we get to share time with our executive partners, easily the biggest differentiator at the William & Mary School of Business. And this evening, I have the pleasure of introducing 2 of my personal favorite EPs, Mr. Terry Shannon and Ms. Sharon Wood Dunn. I've had the honor of knowing Terry and Sharon for many years, and I'm always in awe at the amount of time they dedicate to our program here. And more importantly, at the relationships that they build with our students. They are tireless in their energy and dedication to William & Mary, and we're really proud that they're with us this evening. Terry has a great background in marketing and also supply chain, mostly in the food sector. He began his career at U.S. Food Services and held various executive level roles. I actually overlapped Terry in my last job out in Arizona, where he served as a director at St. Mary's Food Bank Alliance. He was the CEO of the food bank, one of the largest food banks in the entire country. And while I was working at Arizona State, I had the opportunity of volunteering at St. Mary's Food Bank. I didn't meet Terry then, but I'm very fortunate that our paths crossed when we both relocated back to Virginia. My good friend Sharon Wood Dunn is another incredible executive partner, and Sharon's background has primarily been in the telecommunications sector and also nonprofit sector. She began her career at Verizon Communications and then has transitioned into becoming the principal owner of S. Wood Wilson Associates, consulting services operation. So Sharon and Terry are 2 of my all-time favorites, and we are so honored that they have set aside time to meet you all this evening and to really share the value of mentorship on your MBA journey. Terry, I think you're kicking us off this evening, so I'll bounce it over to you and we'll get started.
Unmute.
I didn't unmute. First mistake of Zoom, right? Thank you for the kind introduction. It was absolutely terrific. Amanda told you about 35 years of experience between the corporate world and the nonprofit sector on my resume, but came to William & Mary about 8 years ago after retiring from the food bank in Phoenix, Arizona. Wound up in Williamsburg, Virginia. Just a great community. If you've not had the chance to visit, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And very attractive for folks like myself and Sharon to be able to settle in. But the 8 years here at William & Mary, I knew that retirement wasn't going to be about sitting around and playing golf and drinking coffee. I got connected at William & Mary with the Executive Partner Program in 2012. And it has been one of the most rewarding, enriching experiences that I could ever have hoped for along the way. Because we get to work every day with young aspiring folks, potentially looking at different careers, potentially looking to enhance their careers along the way. It's just a terrific opportunity for us to do that. As well as being an executive partner, I also teach a couple courses in the MBA program here at William & Mary. So according to my daughters, I have failed retirement miserably, but that's a good thing. Because retirement's about doing what you want to do, where you want to do it, with who you want to do it, and I'm doing that. And the opportunity to work with folks like you and learn about your backgrounds is just an incredible experience for every one of us. I'll turn it over to my partner tonight, Sharon.
And actually, Terry the two of us have been partners as executive coaches. I am just absolutely delighted to meet all of you this evening. It's an absolute pleasure for me to do what I'm doing, which is being an executive partner for 14 years. I moved to this area from Connecticut. My husband decided he wanted to retire and play golf all of his retirement. And I said, okay, that's fine, but I need to be by an international airport within an hour and a ranked institution. And when those two conditions were met, we moved and built a home here in Williamsburg. It is a beautiful community, and I really hope you will come and spend some time with us. As Terry said, it's an absolute pleasure actually for us to work with you. The credibility that I've received actually from my grown sons as I've become executive partners, because they're saying, Mom, you really can relate to us better now. So we love to work with you and share with you the opportunities that are here and help you along the way. And this evening you will hear us speak about the program of executive partners and the way we enter into or interact with you and your lives if you choose to be with us this coming year. Thank you. Back to Terry, I think, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to provide an overview of the Executive Partner Program. The program has been around at the business school for over 20 years. And it began in a very simple fashion where the dean, who is actually still the current dean, Dean Larry Pooley at the business school, felt the need to reach out to the local community and engage some former senior level executives to help advise student teams as they were going through projects with various companies and various corporations. And that program is still around today, called Corporate Field Consultancy. It's a second-year MBA program. So the program started at that point with a handful of executive partners. Today there are just under 100 EPs involved. And when we say involved, it's a variety of different programs. From every professor has the access to us to bring us into the classroom to provide additional content expertise if that's what they're looking for, depending upon a subject situation. You know, imagine going into a crisis communication kind of class and that professor brings in 3 or 4 executive partners who were managed operations in the Twin Towers when there was an accident, managed operations when there were earthquakes hitting California, managed operations when Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, and how we reacted in those business situations along the way. Or ethics situations where EPs are brought into the classroom as a panel and share a ethical situation they encountered. And then before they tell you what they did, it's opened up to the class from a discussion standpoint. What would you do? How would you handle that situation? And then the EPs share the outcome of that, of the scenario, what happened, how they dealt with it, how they did it along the way. EPs are called in to serve as advisors. And keep in mind, as advisors, our role is never to give you the answers, but to ask you the questions, to get you thinking along the way. You know, we're not going to be the people to be able to help you with your accounting homework. Nope, that's not our stuff. We hired people to do that for us in our roles and during our careers along the way. But we can absolutely help you prioritize and help you plan. Put us in two different buckets from an engagement standpoint. There's the professional development bucket and helping you mature and grow as a professional during your time at William & Mary. And that professional development encompasses a tremendous amount of things along the way. And Sharon's going to get into a few things in just a minute. But also from a career advising side. If you want to learn about careers in the food industry or the supply chain side or a nonprofit sector, I may be the guy that you reach out to. If you want to learn about what it's like to be on Wall Street, what it's like to be in the energy industry, we've got EPs that cross over every industry, every sector you can imagine, and every functional area. Most of us exited those careers at senior levels. C-suite is very typical. Many of us are still engaged on boards of directors of organizations around the country. So from a networking standpoint, networking is a critical component of your time at William & Mary, because that'll do nothing but enhance your future opportunities along the way as you go forward. So the executive partners are all, except for 5 of them, live in Richmond, Virginia, which is about 45 minutes away. The rest of us live right here in the greater Williamsburg community. Easy access to come into school, sit down with you. We regularly get emails from students saying, hey, saw your background online, interested in learning more about it. That's where we'll wear the mentoring hat along the way to really share with you our experiences, our backgrounds, the things that we dealt with along the way. But one of the very key areas that we get involved with is coaching, and draw a distinction between mentoring and coaching. Mentoring is me sharing my specific experiences. This is how I did it. This is what I would do. Coaching is helping you go through a self-discovery process. And I'm going to turn it over to Sharon to talk to you about one of the very key programs that I think this year we've got 48 executive partners serving as coaches for first-year MBA students. Sharon?
Yes. Well, as a full-time MBA student, you are actually assigned a personal coach, as we like to call it, an executive partner. You work in a team, and the executive partners have about 2 to 3 students that they work hand in hand with. So when we talk about a principled professional, what we're speaking of is someone who can think on their feet, who can demonstrate leadership skills, who can develop and grow with their peers as a team. And this takes some coaching, and it takes some ability to be willing to learn and grow. And so in our roles as executive partners, we're committed to you from the very beginning. We're with you for 2 years. And as we go through this program, what we call the Principal Professional Program, is to help you develop your stories, your personal growth, is to look at the assessments that we do that gives you some insight in your leadership abilities and the growth you want to lead organizations. And it also helps you interacting with your teams. And so we will give you feedback, honest feedback. We'll walk along with you as you journey in the various activities that we have for you. We like to start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself, those personal stories. We have them taped so you can take a look at them. And we walk with you through that process because we know that for some people, just speaking in public and being able to express themselves may be a challenge for some. And so we like to make sure that we're comfortable. That's something that we do a lot. And so it's very valuable as we walk through the program with you. We give you feedback and honest feedback, and we help you as you want to develop in your role. There's some of the things that we look at from the very beginning. So it's what we call a growth plan. So you identify some of the things, 2 to 3 things that you want to gain from this program in terms of your leadership abilities and just in terms of things that you want to get better about. And those assessments will help you understand that you may be good in one area and need some growth in the other area, and we'll help you with that process. So we begin from the very beginning of your time in our 2-year program, and we go through those 2 years with you. So I think we can open it up for some questions if you'd like. And Terry, if there's something that I didn't add to our time here with you, please jump in.
I'll jump in just real quick on we work hand in hand with the Graduate Career Management Center,
Yes.
which is going to be a key resource for you from an internship seeking standpoint and then ultimately full-time employment. And that involves everything from resume reviews to conducting mock interviews, getting you comfortable in being able to, as Sharon described, tell your story and answer questions in a professional atmosphere. And sitting across the table from folks like Sharon and I, who have interviewed hundreds of candidates for various positions at the organizations we were involved with throughout our careers. Each of us will do it a little bit differently, just like every interviewer that you will encounter will do things a little bit differently. And the ability to position your skill sets in the most effective fashion to be able to match up with that employer's opportunity for you. You know, we work very closely with a number of military folks, and being able to, you know, every industry that you may come from, whatever it might be, if it's a military background or a commercial industry, every industry has its jargon. And the ability to convert that jargon, never misrepresent when you're telling your story, but convert that jargon into information that is relevant to that particular employer along the way. Employers have told us again and again and again that your resume and the technical skills that you've got and that experience, that gets you to the table from an interview standpoint. What will get you the job are the soft skills, the communication skills, the problem-solving skills, the people, the teamwork skills that you have. And that's the world that the executive partners live in with you for 2 years, all the way along. And what ultimately, begins as a designated coach that you're going to work with for that period of time, you have access to almost 100 executives. And if you're talking to me, for example, and I'm your coach, and we're working through things, and I find out that you're interested in product management, I'll put you in touch and do the introduction to 3 of our executive partners who spent their careers in product management. And you can learn firsthand the kinds of things they were involved with. What was their first job? And how they progressed. Because careers are never about, you hear about career paths and career ladders. Careers are more like rock climbing walls, if you think about it. You're going to be reaching, stretching. Sometimes you're reaching around blind corners to figure out, is there something to hold on to there? Sometimes you have to go down to go up, right? Sometimes you need a mentor to throw you a rope and pull you to the next level in an organization. And sometimes you fall off the wall. And I can tell you, all almost 100 executive partners have lived their careers on that rock climbing wall. And you guys are making it, you're making a big risk right now, right? You're considering coming back to school full time. Is it the right thing for you right now? You're hoping there's something to hold on to. And hopefully without a doubt, there is at William and Mary. And the skills that you'll develop, absolutely, you'll get all the technical skills, you'll get all the accounting skills, you'll get the marketing skills, but you also get the soft skills, which are ultimately going to be the things that'll take you to the next level and the next level and the next level. Amanda, we want to open it up?
Yeah, we do. I just have a few thoughts. Our EPs are so incredibly humble, but again, this is the biggest differentiator to our program. We couldn't do what we do here without our EP's support, so they're incredible. And one of the things that always strikes me, Terry and Sharon, is also if one of our candidates really earns it with you. I've also seen the EPs be incredibly generous opening their networks where they can. And one of our other favorites is an executive partner by the name of Ed Shagru. And I would really credit Ed with single-handedly bringing IBM on as one of our consistent corporate partners here at William and Mary. And when Sharon is talking about the coaching and the mentoring, and Terry's talking about the mock interviewing, having the ability to sit down with somebody like Ed Shagru, who was a 30-year plus vice president of human resources at IBM in the city, and to have those conversations face to face, and to have him make warm introductions to current corporate recruiters, that's really incredible. It doesn't happen all the time, but if you really earn it with our EPs, they will extend their personal networks to you. And then most recently, and I know that Terry, you've been very involved with guiding our students in the nonprofit sector, but Sharon, another thing that you've been really active in over the years, but really over the last several years, is your outreach to our women. And I know it's very important for our female MBAs to feel like they have that female mentorship in the program. But also, as we've launched our Alumni of Color Network, I've seen some of our executive partners become very involved in student D&I initiatives that are really important to us as well here at the William and Mary School of Business. And so we've had a lot of exciting calls this summer as we launched our Alumni of Color Network, our Student of Color engagement. And Sharon, you've been also very active in that. So just the point that you will see your executive partners in so many different facets of your experience. They might be co-teaching a class, they might sit on a panel as you're making your Batten Fund pitches, they might be judges as you're presenting your DAMC presentations. They'll also be coaches and mentors for your second year field consultancy. I don't know where they find the time. They are no longer retired. They are gainfully active and employed here at the William and Mary School of Business. So I just, wanted to really add a few remarks because you all do so much here. And again, we wouldn't be who we are today without our EPs. So if you're okay now, we can open it up to good questions. Let's give our candidates just a moment. Please feel welcome to unmute, raise your hand, jump right in. We want these sessions to be engaging and lively. You can also ask your questions in the sidebar. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna tee both EPs up. Over the next 10 minutes or so as we're answering questions, I'd also like to hear one of your success stories in working with one of your students. And Sharon, we've had so many conversations. Terry, you're in my office all the time, and I know those stories are plentiful, but be thinking about that as we wait on some of our student questions here. So please feel welcome to share with us. Josh and I talk a lot about the question, just simply to get us started, how are the executive partners assigned? And that actually changed a little bit this summer. But Terry, do you want to talk a little bit about how we assign EPs? And then I can tell a little bit about how Nancy has changed and realigned things this summer.
Yep. Sharon actually alluded to, as a first-year MBA student, you're put on a team This year it's 4 students on a learning team. And the teams are put together with a lot of thought behind it, because you want the diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of perspective on every one of those teams. And that team you will be with throughout the whole first academic year. 2 executive partners are assigned to each of the teams. And I'm often asked the question, well, if I'm interested in finance, are you going to assign a finance background executive partner to me? The answer is not necessarily. The goal is to provide you somebody who has great coaching experience and great the ability to help you look in a mirror in a more effective fashion from a professional development standpoint. I've got plenty of finance folks you can talk to from an EP standpoint, and I'll be happy to introduce you to those kinds of people through the program. But you're not specifically assigned to somebody like that. And it has never been a limitation along the way from an experience and success of what we're able to accomplish with the students.
Well, it's a goal, though, to have you go outside of your comfort zone or outside of an area of interest and get to meet someone else. So you'll get used to your executive partner. We're always with you. However, for you to reach out to someone else and engage with them so they can interact with you in some areas of interest. So that's probably a plan just to make that initial, going forward rather than to stay in your comfort zone.
Like we have a question here in the chat bar from Pradeep. He's talking about when students come in, what's the most common weakness they have, and how do the executive partners help, in his words, the students tackle that particular weakness and help them grow?
First off,
I would say,
go ahead, Shannon, please.
The saying that people fear death more than speaking in public. We see that a lot. One of the first assignments is for someone to introduce themselves and, just say a little bit about yourself and your background and all. And for some, that's a big deal. And so we coach and we record and we practice. How do you get to Carnegie Music Hall? Practice. And so we spend time doing that. And then that comfort does, come into being, and the student becomes more proficient in that area. So that's one of the things I noticed right away. What about you, Terry?
Keep in mind, guys, we don't necessarily like to refer to things as weaknesses. They're development opportunities.
Yes.
Now, there may be things that you're not aware of, and we refer to those as blind spots. Things, the way you react to stuff, the way you take on different perspectives, the way you potentially jump to judgment in situations. All of those kinds of things are opportunities for further development. Sharon mentioned that during the principal professional course, in that first 7 weeks, you'll go through a series of personal assessments. You'll sit down with your coach in confidential conversations and talk about those assessments. What did you learn about yourself? What are the opportunities for development? What kinds of things do you want to work on? And then develop a plan to be able to, how do you go about doing that in this safe learning environment here at William & Mary as you're interacting with professors, with other students and so forth on a go-forward basis. So, that principal professional will take you through self-awareness. It'll take you through awareness of others, the ability to interact effectively with other folks. The key is understanding their perspective. How do you do that? How do you take it, ask the right questions? How do you bite your tongue and step back and say, let me listen here a little bit more, referred to as active listening. And then the discussion about leadership styles. Folks often ask me, what kind of leader are you, Terry? And I say, well, it depends on the situation.
Right.
If the house is on fire, I'm going to be a different kind of leader than if I'm working with a student from or a individual from a development standpoint. Totally different scenarios. So the ability to wear different hats depending upon the situation. It's all an opportunity for you guys. And the interaction, not only with that initial team that you're put on, but the cohort that you're going to be engaged with 110 to 120 students in that MBA cohort, plus the second years that are in-house. What you'll find is that it's competitive, but not cutthroat. And I think that's a distinction, a pretty clear distinction, that the more successful everybody is, the more successful everybody is along the way.
You actually have a team contract that you develop on your as a team, and you put you spend time looking at that and wanting to be sure that you're articulating those things that are going to make you successful as a team, whether grades are important or working together on a project or owning it. We have a saying around William and Mary, own it. And that's an opportunity to take on a challenge and with support and of your team, as well as exercise and develop your own strategies. And so we see a lot of that as being so positive in interacting with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really good points. The team dynamic is incredible here. And one of our candidates on the call tonight, Francis, is calling in from Nigeria. Hi, Francis. Francis's sister, Christiana, is a first-year MBA. Francis, what is Christiana saying about her EP interaction and team engagement already? Because right now she's working remotely until we can get her here from Nigeria. But what does Christiana have to tell you?
Hello, Amanda. Good evening. It's morning here in Nigeria. It's 1 a.m. Christiana has an amazing testimony about her experience with her EPs. It's been an intimate moment of learning and unlearning. She's discovered herself, or she's still discovering herself. It's a process. Her introduction of herself has been amazing, excellent. I have also watched her improve from the first interaction to the more intimate interactions she's had with her EPs, and she has such an amazing testimony. She's had networks that she's been introduced to through her EP, and it's something I hope to experience soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis. So brave to speak up on the call. We adore Christiana, and the experience that you're seeing is Christiana hasn't even made it to Williamsburg yet due to COVID travel restrictions, and even the engagement that she's having virtually is that special. So Francis, we will surely keep working to get you here in Williamsburg, Virginia, but thank you for speaking up. Josh, I think if you'll manage the next question from Carter. Carter has a great question as well.
Sure, Carter's asking, what piece of advice would you give a student to develop closer relationships with the executive partners?
I think the key is, pick the EPs are a resource. Just like the faculty is a resource, just like the business school library is a resource, the staff are resources, and resources are only as effective as you take advantage of them. And with the executive partners, literally you'll have, if you go onto the main Mason website right now, you can see all of our profiles and pictures of us and so forth. But as an enrolled student, you'll have access to our contact information. I regularly, and I'm sure Sharon does as well, get emails from students that I've not met along the way at all yet. It says, I saw your background, do you have time to talk? And it's just opening that door. you'll see us in the classroom like I described. And I've had a number of scenarios where after being involved in a classroom presentation with an instructor, you get an email after the fact, hey, you mentioned something about, your experience in the food banking world. I'd like to learn more about that. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's sit down and talk. Right now it's all involved with Zoom, but I think we've all become pretty proficient in the Zoom world the past 6 months here along the way. It is what it is, so we're absolutely making the best of it. But all you need to do is reach out and make the connection. The door's open. It's up to you, really. Sharon?
And they become, our students become our lifelong friends. I said I did this for 14 years, and I can remember my first students 14 years ago. Some are married now and have children. Others have moved out of the country. I always hear from them. Mother's Day, Christmas, the holidays, always here for the students. And Amanda, you asked us about one particular special student. Should we talk about?
Sure, go ahead, Sharon. Mm-hmm.
Just a very quick story of one young man who is from this area, actually Smithfield, first to graduate from college in his family, first to get a master's degree in his family. And he had a wonderful attitude of wanting to learn, just wanted the support, that's all. And he went to Toastmasters to help with his presentation skills, and we back and forth. And he is now very well employed at the Federal Reserve. He is now actually the president of our alumni group that has just formed this year. I am so proud of him. And it just really shows you, as much as you engage, as Terry said, you reach out, we reach out, and we will be with you along the way. He graduated in 2014, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're, he's like another son. But we have so many students that have just continued. They'll call us, ask us questions about the next position after they've graduated, and what advice would we have, and what did we think about, this particular position that they're vying for. So we continue. Our family continues to grow each year.
And if we really want to scare you about how tight-knit, I know very well that Sharon's talking about Monteek Warren, also one of my favorite MBA graduates from 2014. Josh and I see Teek every time we go up to the city. He's a great success story. So that should show you, out of the thousands of students that we have all served, how tight-knit this group really is. So thank you for sharing that story.
And
Terry,
before international students too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Before we bounce back to another success story, Young Sue has a great question. Hi, Young Sue. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. You've been with us every session. We're delighted to see you. And the question is, what advice would you have for international students on how to develop in the program as they're seeking opportunities for employment in North America or the States after graduation? So maybe Terry, take this one, and then we'll have Sharon jump in if she has more to add.
I think the key thing is understanding the American culture, American business culture, and that culture can be different depending upon the industry and depending upon the organization that you're interested in pursuing. And the ability, and this is where that EP network, as well as the William and Mary Alumni Network, are incredible resources for you to be able to conduct what we refer to as informational interviews, where you're getting in touch with somebody just to learn more about their background, their experience. Say you've got an interview coming up with XYZ company in the United States, and you find out that an executive partner worked there or a William and Mary alum. the ability to just connect with them and say, tell me about about the company. Tell me about how you got started. Tell me about the culture. Because the more you understand about that, the better you can react to that interviewer's questions along the way. So if you're interested, in developing that career opportunity in the United States, the ability to learn as much as you can, and even for domestic students, it's critical to go into those kind of scenarios over the top prepared, not just reading the company website. That gives you the surface level stuff, but really doing the deep dive, and that takes time. And it was on a call with one of my students today, and we were talking about this internship search scenario is it was overwhelming him a little bit on things. And I said, you just got to start blocking off time, just like you're doing coursework for the accounting course or the marketing course. The ultimate end game that you're all looking for is a successful career next step. But the key is as well that recognize that next step isn't a life sentence. The ability to use that as a stepping stone to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. Remember that rock climbing wall. You may not even know what the next handhold is going to be, because it might not be there in today's world, but could be there 2 years from now.
Thanks, Terry. And Sharon, maybe you can kick off the answer to the next question. Pradeep from Nepal, thanks again for being here. He's been on a few of the calls. But he's asking, what are some of the skills that the EPs think will be beneficial for MBA students to learn or brush up on before joining an MBA program?
Analytics, data analysis. Those are hot buttons. Accounting. Now, we do have some courses beforehand. So if you've been out of school for a while, I would have to certainly take any of those classes. We do have, and we have what we call boot camp, but I would even go online and, study, take a couple of courses online as you can. Those subject matters are the ones that tend to give some of our students some challenge. So that would be a good way to start.
I think the other thing to pick up the Wall Street subscription to the Wall Street Journal, pick up a subscription to Fortune magazine, Harvard Business Review. All of those are great periodicals for you to be able to get into the language of the business community and be able to read about what's happening in different business situations and so forth. One of the pieces of advice I gave a student today, he was about to go into last week, the big career fair last week that the MBA students were attending was, he had these 4 or 5 targeted companies that he wanted to meet with. I said, use your Wall Street Journal subscription and do a search on each of those companies. See what's currently going on in those companies. You'll dazzle an employer by being able to talk about something that's not on their website. Hey, I saw you guys just are opening up a new plant in Paducah, Kentucky. What are you going to be doing at that plant? Those kinds of things just show your genuine interest in that organization, because you got to make yourself memorable, because you want to be that callback where they're going to want to reconnect with you.
Terry, I just want to jump in quickly, and man, that you'll laugh at this story. Terry mentioned some of those big magazines and periodicals, but the Harvard Business Review, Amanda and I were flying to some city or some country around the world a year or two ago, and I flip open my Harvard Business Review, and the very first article was written by our own Dr. Inga Carboni. She teaches organizational behavior, amongst other things. And her research was the very first article in that issue of Harvard Business Review. So when we tell you there's a lot going on at William & Mary, I was pleasantly happy and surprised, and maybe not surprised, but that was really cool. So when you're reading these things that Terry mentioned, you might even come across a William & Mary professor in the magazines.
Following up on that, Josh, Inga just published a book called Connect the Dots.
Right.
That's all about networking. And if you do nothing, you're looking for something to read, and maybe networking is something you're good at or not good at, it will give you some incredible foundation in coming into the school. Because if you begin to think about the networks, you're going to have your cohort of students, you've got this faculty group, you've got the staff group, you've got this executive partner group, you've got this alumni group. How do you do that? You've got your LinkedIn crew out there as well. You've got your church group, you've got your outside social group. Those are all networks. How do you manage all that in an effective fashion and are successful with it? So Connect the Dots is a great read to help you kind of put a package around that.
Very good advice, Terry. We have a question from Carlos Sanchez. Carlos, where, if you want to go ahead and unmute, where are you calling in from today? Where are you currently?
So, hello, good evening. First of all, thank you, Sharon, Terry, Amanda, Josh, for being with us tonight. And I'm calling from Madrid, Spain right now. And I would like to know, what is the relationship between the students and EP like? Is it really just to class, and also do they build long-lasting bonds, or do those relationships end after graduation? What is it like? Thank you.
Really good question, Carlos. I think we'll bounce this one over to Terry and maybe ask him about one of his really successful relationships or enduring relationships. Terry, if you can pick one, please feel welcome to jump right in for Carlos.
Absolutely. First off, you'll find that it's not Mr. Shannon or Mr. Smith or Mrs. Jones. It's Terry. It's Sharon. So, we're really work to connect on a very personal level. The one story that came to mind when you asked that question, Amanda, was a military officer who was transitioning out of the military and was struggling. Initially said, I got this. I had a successful military career. I've got a wonderful background. I've got a wonderful resume. I'm going to be able to get the job I want in the finance world. Now I've got the William & Mary degree behind me. And we talked about it, and I said, you want to run through some mock interviews? You want to do some practice? Nah, I've interviewed, for a gazillion jobs. I know what I'm doing. After 3 unsuccessful callbacks in jobs that he was really trying to pursue, he came in and said, can we talk? And we sat down and really did a significant debrief on his experiences in those interviews, the kinds of questions that were being asked and his responses. And he found himself all the time going back into his military jargon and not relating it to the experience of the job position he was interviewing for. And we see that all the time, whether it's a military scenario or somebody trying to transition from one industry to another industry. You never want to assume that individual. So we went through a number of mock interviews, and I actually set up with a couple of other executive partners. Needless to say, he was very successful, and I know I was the second phone call that he made when he got the job offer along the way, because he called his wife with the first phone call, but I was the second one, and that's the reward that Sharon and I see, is when we get those kind of calls that, hey, I got the job, or I've got a job offer from company A, but I'm waiting to hear from company B. What do I do with company A at this point? How do I, keep things alive? We've been there. We've done that along the way. The relationship will go much beyond anything that you can imagine if you allow it to.
Sharon, anything to add or?
No, I mean, Terry said it all.
Very good.
Those
We do
relationships.
have one more question from Larissa. Larissa, it's so great to see you again. And I might pick on you a little bit and ask you to unmute and go ahead and ask your question, because it is also a very important one, and Sharon can start with it, but would love to have you ask it in person. And tell everybody where you're calling in from, Larissa. Unmute and go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Larissa. Nice to meet you. Amanda, Josh, Sharon, Terry, thank you for this night. And my question is about, for example, I'm speaking from São Paulo, Brazil. And my question is about, for example, in the beginning of the program, if candidates and mentors sit together and establish a plan and a short and long terms and indicators to follow this and maybe correct the route if it's necessary. And that's my question.
Okay, yes. Yes, I spoke a little bit about what we call a growth plan. So we start one-on-one in the beginning. You identify some areas of interest of growth and development, and we walk throughout the first, I would say, 6 or 7 weeks. We go back and forth to just, see how well it's resonating, and you share that with the professor that's a part of the program. But we, as executive partners, as your coach, we would be coaching you through some of those disciplines as you want to develop them for the program. Does that answer your question? Okay.
The other thing to kind of add on to that a little bit, Larissa, the GROW model, part of what we help you determine is what kind of activities, or sometimes referred to as practices, can you try out to be able to experiment with. If networking is an opportunity, or public speaking is an opportunity for you, what can you do differently? And you may say, well, next week in class, I'm going to speak up more, 3 or 4 times in these kinds of situations. Well, the next time when we meet the following week, one of the first questions I'm going to ask you is, so how'd that go? What worked for you? What didn't work? What additional things did you learn from it? What do you want to change going forward? So we're going to challenge you. We're going to hold you accountable. And while the GROW model is embedded in the Principled Professional course, the students I'm working with for the year, we're going to use that because things change. You accomplish goals, and okay, what's next? What do I want to do next? What do I want to work on from a professional development standpoint going forward? So we continue to build on that as we move forward.
Very good. Thank you so much, Terry. I see a couple of more great questions firing in, so I'm going to try to summarize and merge them into 3 really excellent questions. So Lavia, Chandler, and Tejaswi, we'll pull all of these together. But generally, the question is about a student's focus in regards to their specialization and how they come in. So I'm going to tackle this one, and then Terry and Sharon, I said I wasn't going to do that tonight. If you guys have anything to add, please feel welcome. But in regards to the curriculum here, our curriculum is very well designed in a lockstep core for year 1. So when you come into our program, your faculty have worked incredibly hard to design a curriculum that will give you that fundamental toolkit. And we have 4 sessions in the first year, sessions A through D. Through sessions A through C, you're all taking classes in that lockstep core, meaning the classes are pre-prescribed and selected for you by our faculty. And it really isn't until the end of session C that you have to make a determination on the elective courses that you'll take in session D, still in year 1, that lead you to a specialization. So essentially you have almost 3/4, 75% of year 1 to come to that determination on your area of specialization. Some students will remain very open to the process, to faculty guidance, to exploring the potential specialization pathways. They'll have conversations with the Graduate Career Management Center. They'll talk to second-year students who are specializing. And of course, they'll have conversations with their EPs. But ultimately, that's a decision that you'll make. And what we would say is that you do not have to come into the MBA program 110% decided, but you should approach your MBA start with a pretty good understanding of where you're headed in mind, because that's generally how you know it's the right time to begin your MBA. So know that the MBA is the degree that you want. Have some really strong idea about the functional area that you might want to specialize in, but then be open, because as an example, if you study finance here at William & Mary, there's so many different sectors. It could be financial markets, it could be banking, it could be fintech, it could be financial consulting, corporate finance, lots of different avenues. So I would say it's that blend of consultation with the faculty, with second-year students, the career team, of course your EPs, that will really help you put all of that together. And as a global student, in terms of career outcome, the only recommendation I would offer is be aware of the global marketplace. So if I were moving to India as an example, I would think about what are the hot sectors for employment in India, and what do I bring into the fold as a global employee from the States that would really help the Indian marketplace. Same if I'm going down to do business in South America and I want to launch a career in Rio de Janeiro. What talents do I bring? What jobs are really hot and trending? So that's what we would encourage that you really keep your focus on, is where to land those jobs and what specializations would get you there. One more little thing, as a global candidate, you should also look at some of the new STEM opportunities. Programs that are developing specializations that are STEM designated are also recruiting more STEM hiring companies and offering a 24-month potential extension on your OPT work authorization in the States. So the point is just be savvy about what the North American marketplace is looking for. So we may not need a whole bunch of brand managers in marketing, but we surely need help in big data analytics and the IT sector. And there are many jobs that are booming here in the States and hopefully will be booming as soon as we can come out of COVID. But I hope that explanation helps. Terry, Sharon, from your experiences, anything to add?
I think you said it all.
Yeah, you really zeroed in on all the key factors there for sure.
I've been trained well by some EPs along the 11 years that I have been here. And I'm not joking. I actually have formally taken 3 executive partners along my 11 years as I developed in my career. And also, again, Sharon and Terry have become personal friends. I know I could call on them for any favor in meeting with a prospective candidate, but more importantly, if I ever needed them for anything in my personal life, I know they would answer my call, and that's what's truly special about this place and our EPs. With that being said, I certainly want you all to help me in thanking our guests. Let's give some silent cheers to Terry and to Sharon. Thank you so very much for your time at this late hour. And thanks to all of you from literally joining in from every corner of the globe and also every pocket in the United States. We hope that you all remain safe, remain well, and just know that we're so excited to work with you in the season ahead. Thank you all so much for your time.